Hello, all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. In the face of calls to unseal the affidavit supporting the search warrant, the Justice Department scrambled to block it on the grounds that unsealing it would cause irreparable harm to the government's ongoing criminal investigation. It is clear that there is indeed something dark behind this. Both Liz Cheney and Lisa Murkowski, who both voted to impeach President Trump last year, will have a hard time surviving the midterm elections, but Cheney's fate will be revealed sooner. The court ordered Twitter to provide Musk with documents from one of its executives most closely involved in determining the number of spam accounts. It's not clear whether Twitter will obey the judge's order this time. According to China's export data, the global economy is heading into a recession. Okay, let's get into it. After the judge released the FBI warrant to search President Trump's home, a slew of parties, including Judicial Watch, media outlets, and the Florida Center for Governmental Accountability, have lodged motions demanding the release of the affidavit and other documents supporting the warrant. But the Department of Justice refused to release the documents. DOJ lawyers said that the unsealing of the affidavit would irreparably harm the government's ongoing criminal investigation. They wrote in a 13-page filing, even when the public is already aware of the general nature of the investigation, revealing the specific contents of a search warrant affidavit could alter the investigation's trajectory, reveal ongoing and future investigative efforts, and undermine agents' ability to collect evidence or obtain truthful testimony. Attorney Merrick Garland said right before the warrant was released to the public, the department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search. DOJ lawyers also said in the new filing, the affidavit supporting the search warrant presents a very different set of considerations. There remain compelling reasons, including to protect the integrity of an ongoing law enforcement investigation that implicates national security that support keeping the affidavit sealed. The government lawyer said on Monday that it does not object to the release of other documents, such as the cover of the search warrant and the government's motion to seal, or a redacted version of the affidavit, but the redactions necessary to mitigate harm to the integrity of the investigation would be so extensive as to render the remaining unsealed text devoid of meaningful content, and the release of such redacted version would not serve any public interest. President Trump called the raid an attack on a political opponent and said that the FBI agents took 3 of his passports during the raid. So, were President Trump's passports also classified as state secret documents that are not to be kept by President Trump himself? According to CBS, Jay Bratt, a top Justice Department official, said, "We have learned that the filter agents seized 3 passports belonging to President Trump, 2 expired and 1 being his active diplomatic passport. We are returning them and they will be ready for pickup at the WFO at 2 p.m. today." President Trump wrote in a post, "This is an assault on a political opponent at a level never seen before in our country, third world." President Trump told Fox News in an interview on Monday, "The country is in a very dangerous position. There is tremendous anger like I've never seen before over all of the scams. And this new one, years of scams and witch hunts, and now this." He added, "If there is anything we can do to help, I and my people would certainly be willing to do that." On Monday night, President Trump posted on Truth Social that releasing the affidavit would be in the interest of transparency. President Trump said, "There is no way to justify the unannounced raid of Mar-a-Lago, the home of the 45th President of the United States, who got more votes by far than any sitting president in the history of our country, by a very large number of gun-toting FBI agents and the Department of Justice. But in the interest of transparency, I call for the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit pertaining to this horrible and shocking break-in." Under a court order on Monday, Twitter is required to provide Elon Musk with documents from one of its former executives. Musk said that the executive was a key figure in counting the number of fake accounts on the social media platform. In the legal battle between Twitter and Elon Musk, the bot and spam accounts on the Twitter platform have become a central issue in whether Musk will acquire Twitter. In court documents filed by Elon Musk, Kayvon Beykpour, the former general manager of consumer products for Twitter, was described as one of the executives most closely involved in determining the number of spam accounts. Beykpour was fired after Twitter agreed to Delaware Court of Chancery Judge Kathleen McCormick ordered that Twitter must collect, review, and provide documents from Kayvon Beykpour to Musk. However, she denied Musk's request for access to 21 other Twitter employees who had access to the information. Musk's main concern is the number of spam accounts, and with Beykpour's documents, that should be enough to provide the information he needs. So, how exaggerated is the problem of fake accounts on Twitter? Even Musk's father, Elon Musk, is suffering from this problem. Last week, the elder Musk told the press that not long ago, he tried to sign up for a Twitter account. Instead, he was told that he already was registered and that he had already sent 400 tweets. Alaska Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski and Wyoming Republican Representative Liz Cheney, who both voted to impeach President Trump, will be running in the midterm elections this Tuesday. They face re-election challenges, but the primary results are expected to be different. Almost all predictions were that Cheney would lose the primary. Cheney herself understands this situation. A few days ago, she made a last-ditch effort. She brought out her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney, to bash President Trump in a campaign ad, but the old Cheney support apparently didn't help. Cheney's primary opponent is Trump-backed Harriet Hageman, who won 70% of the state's vote in the 2020 election, and polls show that Hageman could beat Cheney by more than 20 points. Lisa Murkowski, like Cheney, has been condemned by Republicans in her state, but she is luckier than Cheney in that she enjoys an advantage in the way Alaska is being elected this year. The state is using ranked voting this year, so the top 4 candidates who receive the most votes regardless of their party will advance to the November general election. Murkowski may not place first in Tuesday's primary, but she will most likely be in the top 4 because of her name recognition and the state's history of supporting independent candidates. But whether she can win in November's election will be clear from today's primary results. Before we move on to the big news of whether the global economy will collapse and whether Alibaba will be leaving the US market, I want to remind you that if you like what you see here on our YouTube show, you will love our membership site. I'm sure many of you have already seen it, but for those who have not, here's the trailer. Our front page membership website has been up and running since January 20th, 2021, and this is where we share more in-depth analysis of the news. I want to thank everyone who has been a part of our membership website. We love you and we couldn't do this show without you. Your dedication to our membership site ensures that we will continue to bring you the same great coverage. The membership website is our safe place. We post every single episode of Front Page there without any ads. So even if YouTube takes down the video, it will stay on our membership website. But what's really special about our membership site is that we have exclusive, in-depth content that is not uploaded anywhere else. Many of you have commented on how much you enjoy Front Page because we do not add any fluff and we tell the truth just how it really is. Our membership videos go one step further. It's the same Front Page style that you know and love, and we analyze deep, complex issues in a calm, rational, and inspiring manner. Becoming a Front Page member will not only keep you informed, but will also help support our mission. So please join us on frontpageshow.com. Okay, let's get back into it. Even though countries have learned to live with the COVID-19 virus, the so-called epidemic has completely changed the way that the economy works. And now with inflation being a serious problem, people's buying habits have changed. Orders for factories in China have continued to shrink this year. This situation also represents a rapid shift in consumer demand. Families around the world are being forced to tighten their purse strings due to inflation. They are forced to remain cautious about the future. All industries are facing shocks, and the global economic outlook is quite bleak right now. A textile manufacturer said that orders including buttons, zippers, and tailoring threads fell 30% in July and August from a year earlier because of a rapid decline in demand in major markets such as the United States and Europe. Larry Hu, the chief economist at the Macquarie Group, which is one of Australia's largest banking groups, said in turn, "The recession is likely to continue in the coming months and be negative by the end of the year, but the situation is gradual rather than an outright collapse." Clark Feng, a representative of the exporter Vita Leisure Company, also confessed that since March, export orders have been declining and that European customers are only willing to buy 30 to 50% of last year's goods. Some factory workers have even started taking unpaid leave or even been fired, which is a tragic situation that has not been seen in the past decade. Although China's exports have declined significantly, 5 large Chinese state-owned enterprises announced one after another on the 12th that their American Depository Receipts, their ADRs, will be delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. They certainly did not exit the U.S. stock market voluntarily, as appears to be the case. It is generally believed that the events are related to the U.S.-China audit and the regulatory negotiations, but in fact, there is also another reason. For proactive application, in order to exit the U.S. stock market shares, companies are required to buy back all shares issued in the U.S. And at the same time, they were required to provide compensation to investors and sponsors. This will not only outweigh the loss, but it will also cause huge pressure on corporate cash flow, especially for companies such as Aluminum Corporation of China, which has turned a loss into a profit within a few years. The funds raised by delisting in the U.S. do not account for much of the overall capital stock of these delisted state-owned enterprises. But listing in the U.S. stock market itself is symbolic for China because it means that these companies are recognized by the West. Delisting is bad for the development of these companies because now they have to circulate in their own economic sphere. There is speculation that the reason for delisting is that these Chinese companies have long been on the U.S. stock market's pre-listing list. The U.S. Stock Exchange requires Chinese companies to provide audited transcripts, but China normally prohibits companies from disclosing this information to the public. Yet, according to the Financial Times, China intends to make Chinese companies in low-risk sectors provide audit information to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. This will allow companies with sensitive data to restructure in order to fit U.S. regulatory requirements, while companies with confidential data may be delisted. But this time, the delistings were of China Life, PetroChina, Sinopec, Aluminum Corporation of China, and Shanghai Petrochemical. Alibaba and China Airlines could also be delisted. The companies may not contain data that is related to national security. The Chinese Communist Party may simply be afraid that the list of shareholders will be exposed. What is the Chinese government really afraid of? It's the fear that the real equity information of these companies will be exposed. It is likely that these large companies are said to be owned or partially owned by family members of the successive generations of Communist Party leadership. This information is something that the Chinese Communist government would never allow to be revealed to the outside world. Monday marked the 75th anniversary of India's independence, which officially ended nearly 200 years of British rule on this day in 1947. Since their independence, India has become one of the fastest growing economies in the world. When the British first left India, the average life expectancy for Indian men was only 37 years, and it was 36 for women. And only 12% of Indians could read or write. India's gross domestic product at the time was $20 billion. 75 years later, India ranks as the 5th largest economy in the world with a GDP of nearly $3 trillion. Currently, the literacy rate has increased to 74% for men and 65% for women, and the average life expectancy is now 70 years. The Indian diaspora is spread around the world, and it holds senior positions in some of the world's largest technology companies. Among them are CEOs of Google, Microsoft, and Twitter. Its population is now set to soon surpass that of China to become the world's most populous country. India's billionaires are also proliferating, with more than 100 billionaires now. There were only 9 at the start of the century. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke on India's Independence Day. He said that the next 25 years are critical for India's development and future. He said that we want to transform India into a developed nation within the next 25 years. Former Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh also wrote that India must protect its hard-won freedoms. Manila's ambassador to Washington, Jose Manuel Romualdez, said on Monday that the Philippines is looking to buy heavy-lift Chinook helicopters from the United States after canceling a $230 million deal with Russia. In June, just days before former President Rodrigo Duterte ended his 6-year term in office, the Philippines canceled a deal to buy 16 Mi-17 Russian military transport helicopters to avoid Western sanctions. Romualdez told the media that it could hamper the ability of overseas Filipinos to quickly send remittances to the country. He said, "It is clearly not in our interest to continue with this contract." The Philippines is modernizing its outdated military hardware, which includes warships left over from World War II and helicopters used by the United States in the Vietnam War. The Chinooks will replace existing hardware for Philippine troop movement and for disaster relief. In addition to military deals, the Philippines, under new President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., wants to strengthen economic exchanges with the United States, including in manufacturing, digital manufacturing, and clean energy and nuclear power. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. If you want more Front Page, please join our membership site for in-depth reports and sensitive news that you cannot see on YouTube. Your donation and your membership subscription are really helping us to continue to tell you the truth. Every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you. But please double check to make sure you are still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they are somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've heard from many of our viewers that they don't get notifications of our videos anymore from YouTube. So please follow us on Telegram, Gab, Getter, and Truth Social for the latest updates. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.